What is up, bros and broettes? I am Inkslasher, and today we've got a Call of Duty conspiracy theory. Well, kind of. Today we're speculating. We're speculating about Call of Duty 2017, where it's going to take place, what it's going to be, what it's going to be called. All of those things is what we're talking about today. We're going to be talking about the big leak that came out months ago, Call of Duty People's Army. We're also going to be talking about the leak that just kind of recently came via Twitter, if you want to call it a leak, of basically Call of Duty taking place in the Civil War era. And I don't necessarily think that's true, and we're going to talk about all of that, but let's start off by talking about the most recent kind of information we got via Twitter. So basically, yesterday was an American holiday called President's Day, and Sledgehammer Games, who are going to be the creators of Call of Duty 2017, tweeted out this. On this day, the 20th of February 2017, we celebrate George Washington's birthday, also known as President's Day. Now, first of all, there's a few weird things that you can immediately get from this. So first of all, the picture is actually like a Photoshop picture. Like someone put effort into this thing to make it look good and make it look solid. So that's like the first hint. A lot of people are thinking it's going to be in the Civil War because they're already putting out pictures that revolve around Sledgehammer Games in the Civil War. And it's a pretty good theory. I think there's not enough there to support the game fully being in the Civil War, but it's a neat idea. So if you've followed Call of Duty for a long time, you know that before the newest Call of Duty game comes out, the studios like to build hype for the next game. And in doing this, they do this in super cryptic ways. The example that we're talking about today is exactly that. This tweet that we got from Sledgehammer Games. Not to mention, Treyarch didn't tweet out a whole President's Day thing with a photoshopped image, nothing like that. Only Sledgehammer Games did. So that shows you that there is some ulterior motive from behind posting this President Day tweet. Now, there's also more to it than just the picture. One thing you may have noticed is that instead of writing 2017 in numbers, they wrote it out in letters, 2017. And we're not the only people to notice that. Also, Jimmy, or Chaos X Silencer, you may have known him, he was a pretty big Call of Duty YouTuber, he tweeted at Sledgehammer Games and says, why spell out 2017 instead of just writing 2017? And guess what? Someone answered. So the person who answered this is Michael Condrey, and you may recognize that name because he's definitely one of the lead guys over at Sledgehammer Games. Now, if you don't believe me about the whole being cryptic thing, just read his Twitter bio. It says, Game Maker, boots on the ground. I once sang with the conductor of the Boston Philharmonic. Views are my own. That's it. Doesn't make any goddamn sense. But in there, boots on the ground, we know COD 2017 is going to be boots on the ground. Also, on President's Day, he tweeted out this image right here, which again supports Sledgehammer Games, some American flag, kind of relates to the Civil War, kind of. But we kind of get the gist that the Call of Duty 2017 game is gonna be very America-oriented. Now, Michael Condrey's response to Chaos Silencer was this: of the people, by the people, and for the people. Now, if you don't know what this is basically the last line from the Gettysburg Address. Now, if you don't know what that is, it was a big speech that President Abraham Lincoln actually made during, well, the Civil War. Now, the first thing you may notice about Michael Condrey's response is, first of all, it doesn't answer Chaos X Silencer's question in the slightest. It doesn't answer why they wrote 2017 out in letters instead of writing it in numbers. It doesn't answer that, but it kind of, once again, points toward the Civil War being the location for the next Call of Duty game. However, there's a massive, massive problem with the next Call of Duty taking place in the Civil War, and it's the fact that there's simply not enough weapons or not enough really things to make a multiplayer around. Just think about it. What would the score streaks be? A big-ass cannon? What would the weapons be? A bunch of black powder rifles? There's just not enough to build a game around. So, the thing that I got reminded of as soon as I saw this tweet back to Chaos X Silencer wasn't the Civil War. It was the leak that we heard earlier this year. Call of Duty People's Army. Now, don't get me wrong, the leak that came out, I believe it was in January, was complete bullshit. That whole video was completely photoshopped, it wasn't real. Don't believe anything in that video. However, the name People's Army seems to be ringing a pretty damn big bell right now. Now, my guess behind this is that People's Army may actually be the code name for the new Call of Duty, because as we know, every year the Call of Duty game gets a code name, and I think People's Army might just so happen to be the code name for this Call of Duty, and someone was in the office, saw the name People's Army, and then made some photoshopped image about People's Army. That's just my guess. That's the conspiracy theorist in me coming out. I don't know that. It's just a thought. First of all, People's Army, it doesn't sound like a Call of Duty game, and if it is, well, we'll have to see what it's like. On top of that, like I said, the Civil War just doesn't have enough stuff to base a Call of Duty game around. So what do I think? What is my theory behind this whole thing? Now, this is going to sound super out of place because I'm literally adding this after the video started to render, but think about it for a second. How cool does Call of Duty Civil Warfare actually sound? That actually sounds pretty badass, I'm not going to lie. So first things first, I will not believe that it's a Civil War game until I actually see it, because like I said, it just seems too far-fetched. It seems too far in the past that they won't have enough to build a game off of. So to make any deduction like this, you gotta look at the information you know and try to come to conclusions based on that. And to me, there's 3 big pieces of information we've received about the game. The first of which is it's going to be a boots on the ground game, which to me means it will not be in the future. The second thing that really rings a bell with me is this whole tweeting out pictures of the American flag. They're pretty well photoshopped images. There was some effort put into them, and they were done for a reason. So I think that's number 2. And the third thing that we know, and I think this is the most important one out of all of them, is supply drops are going to be a big thing in this game. There is no way around it. They're going to be in the game. They're going to be prevalent. So what this means is they need a lot of content. And the Civil War won't provide that much content that they're going to be able to provide more DLC weapons, supply drop weapons, and things along those lines. There's simply not enough in the Civil War era. So you got to ask yourself the question, what is the way they could possibly make the most possible DLC content while at the same time making a really cool story? And to me, what really presents itself is having a game, a story that spans across several wars, including the Civil War, World War I, World War II, even going forward to the Vietnam and Korean War. If they span the game across several different wars, it makes it so that they can have so much different weapons, so much different content, and be very easily creative with the game. Now, by no means do I think this is guaranteed or actually what's going to happen. I just think it's a pretty interesting theory. On top of that, the name People's Army would kind of go with the whole theme of having a game that spans across several different wars. What I mean by this is if you name the game Modern Warfare, the game can only be set in a modern war. As soon as you give it a name like People's Army, it really doesn't matter what war it's in. It can take place at any time. But like I said, I still don't think People's Army is the name by any means. If anything, I think it's a code name. But guys, that is all I have to say today. I'm going to leave this one up to you guys. Try to convince me down in the comment section below where you think the next Call of Duty game is actually going to take place. Will it be in the Civil War? Will it be World War II? Will it be present warfare? Let me know what you think down in the comments below. I'll be reading all the comments. I'm actually really interested to hear what you guys think the next Call of Duty game will be, and let me know what you think of my whole idea of having the game span across several different wars. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Also, if you're new to the channel and like what you see here, I know this one was kind of off the rails, I sounded a little crazy, but if you enjoyed, it would be fantastic if you could hit that like button. It really does help with the channel. Also, if you're new to the channel, you can always hit that subscribe button. I upload new Call of Duty videos every single day of the week. On top of that, you can check out my Twitch, Twitter, all of that crap down in the description. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and until next time, peace out.